YouTube founder community, Paul McCartney and Linda McCartney fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and we are here today to talk about Paul and Linda's amazing album, the only album credited to both Paul and Linda McCartney, Ram. One of the best albums ever made, hands down. End of review. Now I'll keep going. It's easily one of my favorite Paul McCartney albums ever. And it's interesting because, it's one of those things where had I been alive when this originally came out, maybe my views would have been different about it, but because so much music happened since then, up until the point I first heard it, which I was probably, in high school or something when I first heard it, enough time had passed where music had come to appreciate this thing for what it is, because it was panned when it came out. Not a lot of people liked it. Because it's definitely got kind of a lo-fi vibe to it. It's definitely got an aesthetic to it that wasn't the Beatles, which at that point people wanted the Beatles from Paul McCartney and John Lennon and Ringo Starr and George Harrison, so they wanted that to happen. Here comes Ram, which doesn't sound like the Beatles. It sounds like Paul and Linda trying to do something different and figure out where they can go musically. And for me, it works on so many levels. It's an album that's inspiring, it's creative, it's loose, it's free. It doesn't have any restrictions. There's nothing tying these people down from just making good music and having a good time and seeing where they can go with it and just experiment. Which, maybe being a Beatle afforded him that freedom, but who cares? He made a good album out of it. This album came out relatively soon after the Beatles broke up. They were still dealing with court cases with each other and getting sued and all that kind of stuff. It was not a good time to be in the Beatles and break up at this time. So, for Paul to basically make an album with his family was probably just, calming and soothing and just felt good to be away from all the Beatles mess that was happening at that time. And, being there with Linda, she really helped him out through a lot of that stuff with the Beatles ending and all the depression he went through and the first McCartney album and all that stuff. Songs like Every Night, talking about how bad he felt and how depressed he was. So to hear this album is kind of like a breath of fresh air compared to the first one, obviously because there's more people playing on it besides just him. But just a fantastic album. There's a really rare mono mix that came out of this thing as well, which was reissued for a 2014 Record Store Day. Something like that. I've got that in the mix over here too. I should probably pull that out. Nah, whatever. You know what it looks like. It's the white boring cover that says Ram on it. That's it. Went to number 2 in the US and number 1 in the UK and has eventually gone platinum. So this album has done pretty well for itself. I mean, it's part of his Paul McCartney reissue archive collection that was done back in 2012, I think, when they reissued this one. And at that time, he played Ram on live a couple of times, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, this album came out in May of 1971. It was recorded throughout October to May of 71, or October of 70 up to May of 71. And New York at Columbia Records and A&R in New York. So a couple different studios. They used the New York Philharmonic for a couple of songs like Uncle Albert and Backseat of My Car. They also had the song Another Day, which was a standalone single that happened around this time as well. Came out in February, so about a couple months before this one. A lot goes into this album beyond just the music, and I feel I want to talk about that a little bit, not too much, but, back at this time, John and Paul were kind of having a rift between each other publicly. It happened. You guys they were in a band, they broke up, people get on with each other, it's just how it is, it's going to happen. But, people thought the whole two Beatles going at it in the back was a stick to the rest of the guys. Which happens a couple of times, you can see. And then John, on his Imagine album, decided to hold The Ears of a Pig as a postcard that was included with the Imagine album as a response to Paul holding the Ram ears here. Ringo's famous quote, he seems to be going strange after hearing this album. John didn't think there were any good songs on it, and then wrote How Do You Sleep? Your music's just, your songs are just music to my ears. This was not a good time to be in the Beatles. For the most part, this album is Hugh McCracken on guitar, Denny Seiwell on drums, and a little bit of Dave Spinoza on guitar, but Paul doing a lot of the other stuff there too. No Denny Lane yet. He came with the next one with Wings Wildlife. Yeah, it's just amazing how rock critics originally hated this album. They tested it, that was the worst thing he ever did. But now it's one of the best albums he's ever made. Like, people just praise this thing as one of the best things he's ever done. There would be a version of this thing called Thurlington years later that was recorded around this time. in June or July of '71, but wouldn't be released until 1977 as Percy Thrillington, doing just an instrumental orchestral version of this album, which is a pretty cool album. So this album, let me show you the inside, and the Lily there, Lily, Linda, I love you. That's what it stands for. But I love the look of this album. The layout is just so funky. The cool, bright colors, the collage pictures, the markers, the highlighters, the goofy pictures of them just hanging out, with the masks and stuff. And it's a nice layout. I like the drawings and stuff. So very homespun, homebrew kind of thing. And this album has always been one of my favorites. I like the feel of this one. The recording atmosphere that they captured on this thing is special and doesn't sound like anything else he ever did before or after. This album has a unique flavor and sound, unique to its own, that was never recaptured ever again. And it definitely sounds like family music or just, hanging out, good time music. So, Too Many People opens this album, and it's got a really cool, loose vibe, which, again, I like hearing that. It sounds fun to hear Paul just kind of rock out, especially after some of the more lo-fi, quieter stuff he did with the McCartney album. To hear this album have a lot of electric guitars on it, to hear him do that, because, he mostly played bass with the Beatles. He played guitar with them, too, but it's good to hear him kind of open up and shred a lot. There's lines on here that are positive against John and Yoko. Too many people preaching practices. Who knows if that's really about them? It could be. But overall, it's just a really fun, rocking atmosphere of a song. Really sharp guitars on this one. I really like the bottle sounds that pop up throughout this thing as well. Very cool intro to an album. Three Legs is great. It's got this super dry sound to it. There's like no echo on it in the beginning, which is awesome because it sounds like they're in the room with you playing. But then, being like the total blues jam that it is, when the echo does happen, all of a sudden it just takes on a different world. There's a whole breadth of different, different dynamics happening. Some people also think this is about the three Beatles being against him. 3 legs. So, when you're a dog, 4 legs are pretty common to have. So, when you got 3 legs, it's about, 3 against 1 on this one. And at that time, he was counted the 3 against 1. But, maybe it's just a song about him standing up for himself. The lyrics are kind of wonky on this one. There's a lot of weird lyrics on this one, too, which, again, I like this album because some of the lyrics are just totally bizarre and far out. Some people want to fill the world with bizarre, far out songs. What's wrong with that? So, yeah, very cool little track. Ram On, it's a nice little ukulele track. Simple little message here, give your heart to somebody. Soon. Right away. Very nice little song. Can't say much more about that than that because at that point we'd spend more time talking about that very short song. Dear Boy is also apparently about Linda's first husband. And what he was missing out on because Paul found Linda and realized, this girl's freaking amazing. How can this guy not see this? Totally autobiographical about what Paul was going through with the end of the Beatles and Paul and Linda being there for him. I really like this song. It's a classic Paul McCartney song, if you ask me. The piano playing on this, the chords, the harmonies, the lyrical build-up, total classic Paul. It's excellent vocal harmonies on this one. Uncle Albert and Elmer Halsey. This is the classic from the LP. This is the song everybody knows. This is Hands Across the Water, Hands Across the Sky. It's catchy. There's so many interesting bits. There's so many things that change throughout this song. It's just a cool buildup of ideas and imaginations and different bits and pieces thrown together to make a really cool song. That stands as one of his best songs. I mean, it's a shame he doesn't do this one live that much or ever. I think he's done it before, but it's probably been a while. That chorus is so catchy and memorable, and there's some wacky lines on here like, a butter pie. A butter pie? The butter wouldn't melt, so I threw it in a pie, alright? Very cool. I like that he went so weird with some of this stuff. He seems to have gone a bit strange. Interesting song. For the phone ringing, instead of recording an actual phone, they just made up with their voices. Just imaginative. Just him being imaginative. And sometimes that's what makes a good song, is hearing someone just go kind of fun with it. Great stuff. And then Smile Away on this thing, straight up bombastic rocker, just goofing around, probably not to be taken seriously. The lyrics are kind of goofy on this one as well, but just a rock and roll song, meant to be in your face, meant to be loud, meant to be brash, meant to just be turned up loud and have a good time. And then you get Heart of the Country, which is a fantastic song. Total classic here as well. This is probably the other song known from this album. Probably not as much as Elmer Halsey, or Uncle Albert. I guess both of them. They're both featured in the title of that song. Great guitars on this one. I love the acoustic vibe throughout this thing. Totally homespun, homey vibe throughout this track as well. Just a lovely, comfortable song. I love the scat singing on top of the guitar parts. The bouncing bass is fantastic too. It's nice to hear Paul do his bass thing throughout this as well. But yeah, the video is great. It's just Paul and Linda hanging out, riding horses, you know, scooting down hills, that kind of stuff. Great track. It just sounds like them wearing sweaters hanging out on the farm. It's just a nice song. And then, is that the start of side 2 or the end of side 1? That's the start of side 2, because after that you get Monkberry Moon Delight. You just go off the deep end with this one, man. It's creepy, it's eerie, it's such a far out song. I don't know what the hell it's about. It could just be another random art song with just a bunch of ideas thrown together, or it could be complete gibberish just thrown together for the hell of it because he's Paul McCartney, and who cares? It's going to sound good no matter what he does. It doesn't matter what it is. It's an awesome song. It's a weird riff. It's awesome to hear him just make all these funky, weird voices with his mouth, as opposed to, I guess, an instrument, because that's what you do when you sing. So it's good to hear him do all those weird stuff and just kind of just goof around. You know, not every album has to be some amazing, dynamic piece of work that's going to change the course of history. Sometimes it's fun to just have fun and see if other people like that. Eat at Home. This is a nice song about, just a simple song about being home with the one you love, the simple pleasures. It's a little rocker song. I like the solid drumming on this, the really cool guitar riffs that pop up here and there. And the shared vocals are great, and that solo is fantastic too. I'm really digging that a lot. Just a nice song. Long-Haired Lady, I feel like this is a song that gets stuck in my head more and more often as I think about this album. Linda gets lead vocals on here for a little bit too. The verses are catchy. That little guitar riff that follows the vocals are cool. The build-ups are nice. You know, it's a, you know, love is long, love is long. It's, you know, another one of those catchy bits that stays in your head over and over again, which leads you to another version of Ram On, just a reprise. Remember, give your heart to somebody soon, right away. And you know, who's that coming around the corner at the end? Ah, the backseat of my car. That's what's coming around the corner. The last song on the album, another classic. Great piano on this one. I love the smooth guitars, the layered vocals. The orchestral bits on this thing really give it a whole different texture and dynamic that is kind of missing from the rest of the album, but lends itself really well to this like massive buildup of, you know, I wouldn't say a day in the life-ish, you know, orchestralness, but it's got that kind of, you know, big bombastic ending kind of feel. You know, we believe that we can't be wrong. I mean, it totally sums up maybe what they were feeling at the time, that like they were sticking up for themselves in a moment where maybe they were not seen so well in the public or not seen so well to their friends or the Beatles or whatever. Maybe it was about them. Maybe it was about them as, you know, starting their relationship because they were pretty young into their, you know, their marriage at this point. Maybe it was just about them and proving themselves. I don't know what it's about. But it's just a wonderful song that I feel is about being in love and being confident and optimistic, and it's just a wonderful way to end the album. A really strong way to end the album too. It's definitely a roller coaster up and down in terms of like how much presentation and how much song craftsmanship went into each song, and the sequencing of that I think plays really well. So very cool way to end that album. But here's the back cover. Nice picture of the family there. Some Beatles going crazy at it there. And I don't have the original sleeve. I don't know what happened to that, but I have just a boring white sleeve that I replaced in here a million years ago. And that classic Ram Apple Records look. If we can get the lighting to figure itself out here. Oh man, terrible lighting. I've got to invest in better lighting. Then side 2 with the open Apple. But yeah. Ram by Paul and Linda McCartney. This is an album I've wanted to tackle for a long time, and I knew it was going to be one of those things where I can either spend 2 years on it, talking about it, or make like a 18-minute video and kind of plow through it as fast as I possibly could, and try to hit all the points that I thought were fairly important, and leave the rest for the discussion in the comments below, because I know this is going to be a big one to talk about, because it's just such an interesting album, and it has a lot of fans divided. I think some people either love this album or hate it. Everyone I've ever met that's heard it has loved it, so who knows. That's about it. This is easily one of my favorite Paul McCartney albums of all time. It might be my favorite of all time. I mean, Flaming Pie is up there, Ram, Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. Band on the Run, McCartney. He's got a lot that I really, really enjoy. This is definitely top 2 anyway. If I had to pick, between a couple of them, at the moment, I'd say this is my favorite. But I'm also, Flaming Pie is extremely high up there. What an amazing album. And I'll do that at some point as well. But, yeah, Ram, 10 out of 10, man. Hands down. Ram Gang. Ram. Ram forever and ever and ever. Yeah, can't say enough about this thing. Put it on, live it, love it, enjoy every moment of it, and let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. Let's talk about Paul and Linda McCartney, Ram. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Giggens, and this has been an album review with Ram by Paul and Linda. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.